Terraria is an easy game. As somebody who's spent more time playing this game than actually telling his family that he loves them, I often find myself getting bored by the more trivial difficulties like Expert and Master Mode. It's only when I juice up my runs with mods that make the game feel like I'm using a belt sander as a pillow that I ever feel the wrath that I desire from gaming. But why can't I just experience vanilla and be happy with its difficulty? Well, it's because I suffer from a rare brain disease that I like to call beast mode. And all that means is that I just want to do something generally considered hard so that I can prove that I am, in fact, a beast. Sadly, the last time I went beast mode, I saved 200 orphans from a nuclear explosion and also taught all of them how to read. But I had to sacrifice both of my hands in the process. Pretty beast, but now I can never play Terraria again. Or can I? Before I could begin my journey, I had to make sure that I had a character worthy of accompanying me. So, I decided I had to contact the legendary Terraria yo-yo YouTuber Colt Colossal. And, you know, people always talk about the importance of first impressions, but I'm pretty sure that I'm the best in the world at it. Colt, I need your help, and I have no time to explain. I need to sprite a hat into Terraria, and I have no idea how. Basically, I need my character to look like this. His head needs to be a foot. I'm sure you can see the importance of this now, and I was wondering if you could make this work for me.
Yes. Texture pack or a mod?
Killed it. Now that I had a vanity set, I just needed a name. Yeah, that should do. Now that I finally had a character, it was time for Toe Biden's journey to begin. As you can see, my feet are on my keyboard, and I am in fact using them to play the game. While I loot up, let me just kind of explain how this is gonna work. So basically, I have my dirty, greasy dogs on my keyboard and mouse on the floor, and my hands are doing literally nothing, except for scrolling on my phone sometimes so I can watch Skibbity Toilet and purchase Red 40 on DoorDash. This world is on classic mode! I know, I'm a baby or whatever, but I swear if this video gets 1,000 likes and or I get up to at least 4 stars on WikiFeet, I'll do this on master mode and I will stream the whole thing so that you guys can see every last inch of my feet or whatever. But now let's just look at the game. The first thing that I struggled with was trying to get my grippers to actually grip the mouse. Like, look at this. Clicking on this chest felt like defusing a bomb with a pair of toenail clippers. And when I finally got it open, I discovered that it was just another aglet. To keep the bomb analogy going, it's like successfully defusing a bomb only to realize that you've just saved the really evil supervillains convention. Now that I had realized just how hard it was going to be to do literally anything in this run, I kinda had to strategize my loadout and my movement. Basically, I determined that I had 3 different ways that I could use my keyboard and mouse setup. Either I had my left foot on the movement keys and my right foot on the spacebar so I could jump, I have my right foot on the mouse and my left foot doing the movement keys, or finally, I have my left foot using the spacebar and my right foot controlling the mouse. Because of this, my class options were kinda limited. If I played melee, I would never be able to get close enough to still be able to control my character. If I played magic, I could never stay on top of my amount of mana. And if I played ranged past like pre-hard mode, I couldn't maneuver and aim at the same time. By process of elimination, all that was left was summoner, because my game plan could literally just be running around and dodging every projectile while my assorted little goobers could tear every single living thing limb from limb from me. Now that I felt like I sort of had a game plan, it was time for the first great challenge of this run, carpentry. Now, for most people, building a house in Terraria is likely one of the easiest tasks that you can imagine. You sort of just like chill out and like click where you want the blocks to go. Maybe throw a little potted plant in there. Oh wow, that looks so beautiful. Nice job. And then boom, an NPC can now no longer be homeless and move in. The important detail of this, however, is that you kind of need to be able to click where you want to on the screen. And that was, man, that sure sucked. Good thing I'll never have to build NPC housing ever again. Now, in the early game, it's super difficult for a young man like myself to go ahead and explore the surface with my feet because I have no mobility accessories. The second there's like a big hole or like an odd wall or something, it just becomes incredibly annoying for me to try and surmount the obstacle. So I decided that my best direction was down, and I began the construction of my elevator, which for non-Terraria players is like a really deep hole that lets you visit cool historical figures like Jeffrey Dahmer and Queen Elizabeth II. Along the way down this hole, I found a glowing mushroom biome, which would be awesome if I didn't die immediately. And I also found a house with the promise of loot. Oh boy, I hope I get like a cloud in a bottle or Hermes boots. That would have really helped me with... I'm gonna cry. I mean, it wasn't a flare gun. Did you see that? That right there was the last ounce of optimism that I had left in my entire body on full display. I'd been playing the game for like an hour at this point, and I'd found no extra health, no new weapons, and the only movement accessories that I had found were climbing claws, shoe spikes, and an aglet. On top of all of that, the second I closed the chest, a skeleton appeared out of thin air and sucked every last ounce of calcium out of my body. However, that chest was actually a blessing in disguise, because I had managed to pick up a suspicious looking eye, which I would later use to summon the first boss of the run, the Eye of Cthulhu. After a bit more mining, I finally reached Hell and found myself a Band of Regeneration, which was a welcome addition to my completely mobility-free loadout. Now that I had reached Hell though, I decided to go home and make myself some much needed armor and weapon upgrades. I made myself only a helmet and boots so that I could continue to show off my hot summer body to all of the creatures underground, but also stay safe. I also crafted a silver sword so that the skeletons would finally stop boning me unless I explicitly allowed them to. I'd finally achieved my lifelong dream of being able to monger both war and fear with my deadly loadout. However, there was one last type of mongering that I had not yet mastered: fishmongering. Earlier on, I mentioned that I would be forced to build Summoner in this run, and a massive part of building Summoner in the early game is fishing. However, fishing also has a secret other use in this game that most people ignore. It can give me accessories that are usually found underground. What this meant is that I didn't have to go caving and hunt for rooms and fight skeletons and die over and over and over again. No, you silly little goose, I could just give in to the white boy urge to sit on a lake and cast my line over and over again. So, I decided to create myself a nice little lake next to my house and fill it up with water using a fun liquid duplication glitch. But I cannot monger fish without mongering at least a little bit of fear. So, I also forced Garrett the guide to sit and watch in horror as the water level rose around him. As you can see, he tried his best to escape the watery hell that I was trapping him in, but his legs just weren't powerful enough to escape complete submersion. Eventually, he died a horrible death, and as you can see, I was completely unfazed by it. But little did I know that later on, Garrett's spirit would go on to haunt this very fishing spot. I didn't manage to catch much of anything for a while, and eventually I just decided to go ahead and try the Eye of Cthulhu, because why not? Since I was feeling just a bit cocky, I decided that I could craft a lead bow and show this floating eyeball just what a 19-year-old boy can do with his feet. Shoot a bow. That's, like, kind of about it. Like, I don't really know what else you would think a 19-year-old boy could do with his feet. Oh wait, foot chop! But foot only challenge be damned, this boy can shoot a bow. I was demolishing this eyeball with my feet. Classic mode Eye of Cthulhu is actually a joke. All it does is float around menacingly and pretend to dash at you. I was cooking the eye so hard that it literally ran away and ended the boss fight. Okay, that might have been a lie. I started the fight way too late in the night and I ran out of time. But in my mind, the boss was actually just a little baby. Can you guys just let me have this one pretty please? Just like put Eye of Kapoopoo in the comments if you agree. Also, subscribe while you do that, so I can feel the warmth of a hug without the personal connection of actually hugging someone. But since I was now like really confident in my ability to beat the Eye of Cthulhu, I kinda just did a victory lap by methodically building a house and flattening out the land on the surface so that I wouldn't have any potholes to break my sweet, delicate ankles in. And in the process of building one of the bridges, I also added this fun little bump right here. So if you mess with the bump, you are officially hashtag team bump. And if you don't mess with the bump, you are officially hashtag team bumpless. And also, if you literally don't care, you can have like hashtag team apathy or something. I don't know, man. However, bumps aside, I also decided that I could kill the rest of the day by going to get a firearm. And now, since there was no American Walmart nearby, I had to do the next closest thing. And that was climb into a horrific flesh chasm filled with monsters that desired to suck the marrow out of my bones. In my mind, these two things are like pretty much the same, and I was also able to get a pistol, so I ended up winning in the end. But now that I was packing some clean cheap heat, it was finally time for eyeball round 2. This time the eye came at me, it appeared to be a little bit scared of the monster that I had become. This silly little guy didn't come close to touching me himself once in the entire first phase. Only his little baby balls, sorry, baby eyeballs, ever touched me in this phase. I felt so bad that I even decided to try and take him to the nurse's office so he could heal up. But I kinda forgot that I was in the United States and bro has zero money. The second his card declined, even the nurse started to beat the hell out of him. So I decided that I just had to put the eyeball out of its misery. After I hit this sick clip on him, of course, look at this. So, the big eyeball was plucked from the sky by my insane clips, and I was also filled with a great hope that I could really complete this challenge. However, for the upcoming bosses, it was gonna take a lot more to beat them than running side to side, so I needed to finally go get those mobility accessories. This meant that it was time to get back to fishing. Can I get a big cheer for exploration? I hope you also cheered at home. That would actually make my day. Since I knew that the Crimson was on my left, I decided that I should just run as far as I could to the right in hopes of finding the ocean and also a person with whom I could discuss fishing. Luckily for me, I found the raid boss of fishmongers, the angler. He gave me, a fledgling fisherman, a quest to go and find the bonefish. So I decided to go home and jump down my hellhole to try and find a good enough lake to cast at, but eventually I ended up getting bored of searching and decided to hop a minecart straight to Lava City. This event literally made me quit for the rest of the day, and I came back the next day rested up and ready to explore. I started by going down the underground desert hole and dying a million times trying to reach this one house. You see, I needed a health upgrade and it kind of felt like the desert was a good option, but obviously it wasn't. I eventually reached the house and I got the literal most useless item I could have gotten. I also actually never came back for that bass statue, so the desert was a waste of 20 minutes of my life. After that fool's errand, I decided that I could finally begin constructing a pylon network. But this also meant that I had to build more houses, and constructing the 3 houses that you can see me building right now took me a total of 15 minutes, which is like the amount of time I spend every day researching majestic beasts and wishing that I was as strong as them. But now I could finally set up an ocean pylon, and teleportation from spawn to the edge of the world was finally possible. I also found Nemo and started fishing more and caught a pufferfish balloon, which allowed me to jump much higher, and I got some sailfish boots, which allowed me to run faster than LeBron. I also caught a falcon blade, which was a huge upgrade to my damage and would prove to be very helpful in killing enemies. Finally, I built a fun little dock so I could watch the seagulls just walk around like goofy little goobers. But now the angler had given me the heavenly inspiration to go and get the materials to become a summoner. So as you saw, my quest fish was a flinx fish, which meant that I had to go fish in the underground tundra. But the underground tundra just happened to also be where I had to go to get the most important early game items for a summoner like myself: the flinx fur coat and the flinx staff. Basically, these items would respectively give me another summon slot and an actual creature to summon, so I could finally begin my journey as a summoner. So, I started digging down and ended up in the tundra where the legendary beasts lived. However, it wasn't until I started farming that I learned the dumbest spawning conditions in like the entire game. Basically, flinxes spawn way less frequently on ice, thin ice, and snow. And if you haven't noticed, this biome is almost entirely made out of those 3 blocks. So, to farm them effectively, I would have to make a dirt platform so they could actually spawn at like a reasonable rate. While I was busy risking my life for a life crystal, something incredibly important happened. My very first blood moon. This was a huge moment for me because the vampire frog staff can drop from fishing up enemies in this event. So I needed to act super quickly to try and catch it because this summon is absolutely busted. Little did I know that fishing in dangerous conditions is impossible with my feet. So I wasted like 10 minutes only to come up completely empty-handed. Now I decided that I just had to return to the tundra, and I farmed flinxes until I could craft a coat and a staff. And also, somewhere along the way I found a cloud in a bottle, which would really change my mobility in game. So now that I finally had summons and good mobility, I felt like I was probably strong enough to take on the Brain of Cthulhu, and I went to build myself a fun little box to fight it in. Let's just say that my first attempt at this boss was a huge train wreck. Only after actually summoning the boss did I realize that my first platform was too high for me to jump to. So like for this entire fight, I basically just tried to make a step so I could get high enough to actually use my arena. Also, shout out to the map button because I accidentally pressed it and took like 50 damage. All things considered though, I did actually manage to do like 1500 damage, which isn't a terrible fight. And almost immediately after this fail, I just came back and lowered the platforms to try again. And I was absolutely cooking the boss alive. I got into the arena and I was staying at like really high health. My summons were even like eating up the creepers until I felt confident I could win. That was until I was killed by a quality of life mod that I literally didn't use once this entire run. Enter Recipe Browser, a mod that basically does what the guide does but better. And since the foot hat was a mod, I had seemingly forgotten to turn off this quality of life mod when I loaded the world. Like, why would I actually try to type the name of anything into a text box with my feet? I was just using the wiki on my phone for crafting recipes, but this vile mod was my undoing. You see, my big toe hit the hotkey while I was trying to heal, and this pop-up happens to have an X button to close it in the top right. So I had to try and click on that X with my foot while I was getting absolutely demolished by creepers. And eventually I did manage to close it, but it was just too late for me and I was vaporized by the silly eyeballs. This can serve as a lesson to all of you. Quality of life mods kill. Never use them. Luckily though, I wasn't too discouraged by this death, and I decided to farm for a bloody spine so I could just try the fight again. And this time I decided decided to fight the brain on the surface so I could literally just run away when I got scared. And because of this incredibly inventive strategy, I managed to let my Flinxes kill every creeper, and then I finished the brain off all by myself with my Falcon Blade. Now that the brain was dead, nighttime was fast approaching, and I decided to just try Skeletron for fun. However, the old man was kind of feeling like a jerk and decided to call me a pathetic fool, which kind of hurt my feelings, and I just couldn't see the huge hole that I left in the ground through the tears in my eyes. So I died of fall damage. This death made me rage quit, and I went to go stream some Calamity mod. But after the stream, I decided to actually try and throw down again and make an arena to beat Skeletron. And after another death, I realized that the Flinxes were just way too weak to do any real damage to the boss, and I would need to power up a bit if I wanted to have any success. Now, since Skeletron wouldn't spawn in for another whole day, I decided that I might as well make more houses, like this hole in the tundra that I lovingly named the Goon Cave, and this shack over by the ocean so my angler could come back. I also flattened out more of my world so that I could run away from Skeletron much like I did with the Brain of Cthulhu. Along the way though, I removed a meteor and found a pyramid that had the holy grail of early game mobility accessories, the flying carpet. Now I could go Aladdin mode on these fools and do a drive-by on Skeletron from my Home Depot road. This pyramid was also a blessing in disguise because it led me to finding a total of 5 more life crystals, which increased my health by 100, making me into a real tank. With Big Dog status finally achieved, I went to bed and got going again the next day. Almost immediately after I logged on, yet another blood moon happened, and I tried to get a vampire frog staff from fishing, but those damn enemies were just too strong for my weak little boy bones, and they squeezed me like a damn orange. However, a certain bone monster wasn't quite strong enough to turn me into simply orange juice. That's right, I went back to the dungeon now that I had a carpet and a fully automatic firearm, and I decided to just give Skeletron the business, especially because this stupid old man actually thought that his master could kill me. It was my job as a warrior to show this submissive and breedable old man that his big strong master was nothing but a weak little bitch. I used my fully automatic firearm as a tool to speak to Skeletron in American English, and I ended up folding him like a lawn chair. Now that Skeletron was dead, I decided that I had to get an imp staff so that I could actually kill enemies. So I went and made a Deathbringer pickaxe and went to hell. Little did I know that mining Hellstone was about to be the most surgical operation I had done in like my entire life. I had to mine every single block with so much precision so that I would never accidentally pour boiling hot lava all over my body and melt myself into a puddle. So this operation took me literally 20 minutes, only for me to remember that I also needed obsidian to make Hellstone. So I created a fun little water funnel that would allow me to create it and do no damage to my body. This whole venture was like 30 minutes. At this point, I was starting to feel like I was good enough with my toes that I could have probably performed a better lobotomy than the one that they got on John F. Kennedy's sister Rosemary. But finally, I was in possession of an imp staff and could use it to rain fire on the jungle. So I went to do just that. I arrived in the underground jungle and began construction on the most annoying arena that I had built so far. This construction project would require mining a border, excavating blocks, placing platforms, and lighting, which were all things that my toes just lacked the dexterity to do. However, I never give up. Do you want to know why? Because he never did. With my new Sigma Lizard mentality, I was blessed with the fortitude to excavate the entire arena and deck it out with platforms just for fun. Now all I had to do was just break a path into this beehive so that I could summon the queen bee and just be like 100% prepared, like really ready. Wait, Step Imp, what are you doing?
We're done for. We're done for. We're done for. We're done for. Oh my god. Yep.
Luckily, I was not tweaking at the time, and I was incredibly locked in. This queen bee fight required the most dexterous movement of any boss so far, and I actually had to like jump up and down whenever she would try to hit me from the side. However, with my skilled team of fighters, all I had to do was distract the boss on the ground while my operatives Imp 1 and Imp 2 hit her from the back like nobody else could. I'ma just let that line chill there for a second. Eventually, I hosed her down with enough lead that she exploded into tiny pieces. But unfortunately, I would have to do it all again because she just doesn't drop enough beeswax to make a full bee set. Just as I was about to go kill another queen bee though, a goblin army spawned in.
Huh?
You know, I would love to pretend that this event was like a really tough moment in this run and that it tested my ability to play the game with my feet and everything, but I literally just found a tree that I thought looked pretty cool and I stood next to it. I don't think I ever moved out of necessity once in this entire event. At some point, I think I was even just standing still and scrolling reels on my phone. But eventually, I realized that if I stand still, they spawn less frequently, so for like the last 25%, I went Goblin Hunter mode and searched for every last goblin, man, woman, and child to butcher with my machine gun. And eventually, the slaughter stopped, and the sound of birds chirping was all that remained. And the birds, they were telling me to go build a pylon in the jungle so that I could buy a pygmy necklace. And I know that's like a really specific thing for birds to say, because like they don't speak words or whatever, but they were definitely saying it, and it was not the voices in my head. Okay, there's a chance that it might have been the voices. But eventually I got some houses constructed in the jungle and dived back down into the arena to fight Queen Bee once again. And this time I killed her even harder than the first time, and I was rewarded with enough beeswax to finish constructing my armor. And shortly after, the witch doctor actually decided to move into the jungle and I could get my pygmy necklace, meaning that my imp army had quite literally doubled in size. Now that I had more imps than I did brain cells, I decided that it was probably time to go to bed for the night. It was finally a new day, and I had the unique privilege of being on call with YouTubers Colt Colossal and Cataclysmic Armageddon. So every once in a while I would have my farming interrupted by a British man singing a song that I haven't heard in like 8 years, like the Mini Minotaur song.
Minotaur, tiny Minotaur, little Minotaur, mini Minotaur, Minotaur, tiny Minotaur, little Minotaur, mini Minotaur. How do you defeat a mini Minotaur?
However, this was perfectly fine by me because it gave me the strength that I needed to dive into the dungeon in search of a few items. The most important things to me were the Shadow Key so that I could find a Hellwing Bow in Hell, a Cobalt Shield so the Wall of Flesh couldn't fling me around, and a Bewitching Table so that I could have 5 whole imps. This little errand took me a whopping 40 minutes, and the whole time I had people from Cataclysmic's server asking me what else I can do with my feet. But eventually I got everything I wanted set up, and also set up an underground pylon for quick hell access. I also ran around looking for life crystals, and I finally maxed out my health. With full health and 5 loyal imp soldiers to do my bidding, it was finally time to get going on the Hell Bridge. And if I'm being completely honest, I definitely got lazy on this one. In the past, I've usually always gone all out and made my bridge cover the whole world and whatever, but bro, this is classic mode, and the Wall of Flesh only has like 8,000 health. So I just went and like found myself a Hellwing Bow and made a Hell Bridge that only covered 1/5 of the map. And after all this was prepared, I was actually just ready to take on the final boss of pre-hard mode. And I was 100% right for deciding to be lazy, because this whole boss fight took almost exactly 60 seconds. I just ran to the right and shot my bow while my imps gunned it down with hundreds of fireballs. This honestly might have been one of the easiest bosses that I had to fight in this entire run. And what a wonderful note to begin with in hard mode. Ah, hard mode. What a wonderful time. It has all of the flavor of the early game, except you're already strong enough that a strong breeze can't just turn you inside out. And now the fact that I already had 5 imps at any given time meant that I could just hide in terror while my little friends killed everything in sight. And this is exactly my business model as I began to farm black recluses for the spider staff. If you remember when I found that pyramid earlier in my run, I had also actually come across a spider den. And I decided to make a mental bookmark because I knew I'd be having my fun little crew come in and incinerate all of the life within it. What I didn't prepare for mentally though was just how many of these spiders I would have to kill in order to get the armor and the summon staff. Getting just the armor and the spider staff took me like just under an hour. All of that farming was so tiring, I decided that maybe I could just like kick back and relax with a nice Queen Slime fight. Now class, I'm gonna give you 4 choices on how this fight went. Option 1. Queen Slime was an easy boss, just like the Wall of Flesh. Option 2, the fight was pretty difficult, but I managed to squeak out like a really close victory. Option 3, I got absolutely destroyed, there's no competition. Or finally, option 4, I forget to actually summon the boss and I just log off. And if you picked option 4, you're wrong. Dude, have a little more faith in me. Wow. Option 3 was the correct answer, and I simply kind of just chalked it up to not having a proper arena. But little did I know this was going to be the toughest boss fight of my entire playthrough. After my massive failure, I decided that I at least had to make an arena, which would require a large flat space. I finished flattening out the entire arena at night and then began my arena construction the very next day. Or at least after I tried fishing during a blood moon. But little did I know that the Curse of Garrett was about to begin. The curse materialized in me catching some of the most hellish creatures that I have ever seen in my entire life. Like this blood eel, or this Goblin Deez Arc. Sorry, it was easy, just let me have it, please. However, in all of my time at the ocean, not once did I fish up a Dread Nautilus to get the Sanguine Staff. If I had actually gotten that staff, I 100% believe that I never would have struggled on Queen Slime the way I did. Now, some of you clowns out there might be sounding off in the comments right now about how Queen Slime is not a necessary boss and I can, like, kind of just skip her. But let me pose you a dilemma. Queen Slime drops a summon staff called the Blade Staff, which when turned loose on the twins can absolutely demolish them. This is opposed to the Spider Staff, where these soy little spiders will kind of just like bounce up and down like fools and not even reach the boss because I don't want to lay down the Great Wall of China across the entire background of my world. And because of this reason, Queen Slime was a necessity, and all I had to do was win the fight. So I built up an arena above my flattened hollow biome, and I just tried the boss again. I did not realize quite how terrible the spiders were when they didn't have walls, and I died after doing a whopping 2400 damage. Pretty impressive, I know. So I decided to turn every single stone block I had into background walls and made a track for my spiders to run on while they fought the boss. This minor improvement, alongside me learning how to use my whip to clear her summons, got me into the flying phase at least, where I forgot how to move side to side. Now is when I reach a boss fighting mode that Albert Einstein would call insanity, but I lovingly call thugging it out. Basically what this means is that I do the same thing over and over and expect different results. I never go and improve my gear, and I never learn the boss's patterns. Instead, I just rightfully assume that it'll just work out someday. It took me until I finally decided to join a call with Colt Colossal and the building YouTuber TommyTsunami for me to snap out of the thug state. They told me that I just needed to focus on the small victories and that those would help me improve my mental state and also start making progress again. So, naturally, when a slime rain happened, I decided to beat the ever-loving shit out of the Queen Slime's pushover of a husband, King Slime, and I also spat on his grave. This minor morale boost inspired me to go and farm for the Queen Spider Staff and also fight off a pirate invasion for some money. I also got a pirate staff from the invasion, but everyone knows that pirates are an F-tier summon, so I did not use them once. The great minds in the call also had me trying out fun strategies, like mixing my imps and spiders, or trying to change out all of my spiders for imps during the second phase. Okay, we got rid of the spiders. I accidentally just dropped my whip, and now I'm not moving. Okay. Yep, that didn't work at all. Neither of these ideas worked for me at all, and the frustration was finally pushing me to the edge. I was finally at my breaking point, and I was about to cave. I just had to do it. I finally admitted that I probably needed wings to beat this boss. Up until this point, I had literally just been using my lightning boots and magic carpet combo, and I was just too stubborn to go and farm like 4 wyverns so that I could get wings. Would you believe me if I told you that the fight that I won was the very first fight after I crafted my wings? Yeah. I was so deep in the throes of depression from this fight that I was literally explaining what gooning was to Tommy, a man in his 30s.
Do you know how to goon? I don't even know what that. I don't even know what that.
You don't know what
means,
gooning is? Yeah, I was like, you're probably too old to know what gooning is
I don't know
too.
what that is. Is that some like disgusting internet thing?
Yeah, it is.
I
It's
think
When you don't know what it is, it's usually a disgusting internet thing. That
Yeah.
much I know.
I think it's like
Oh, you can give it a shot.
wanting women bad.
No, 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 no.
What? What is it? What is it?
It is the practice of, and it was all because I was too stubborn to just make myself a pair of wings. We really do forge the chains that we wear in our lives. However, there was a massive possibility that when I finally killed Queen Slime, she would just not drop the blade staff, and I would have to do this again and again and again. Oh my god! 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 Oh my god!
He can't build with his feet. It's impossible.
He can't build with his hands. I just figured he may as well try.
Also, shout out to Tommy for roasting my builds. I really appreciated it. At this point, I was content, and I decided to go to bed because I needed all of the rest that I could get for this next day's work. The next day, while I was doing some morning homework, as you do, I noticed that Tommy was live and I decided to pop into his YouTube stream. I made myself known by asking if he was drinking a bang at 7:30 p.m., as any normal person would. And eventually he said this line right here.
Please, I just, I want to see, I want visual confirmation that you then actually washed your keyboard, okay? And your mouse. And maybe even your feet.
So I went and purchased a keyboard cleaning kit and sent him the receipt on Discord, as any normal person would. So make sure that you watch until the end to see me deep clean my entire keyboard. Also, as you've probably noticed by now, I am just crazy good at this whole first impressions on YouTubers thing. Now that I finally had a blade staff and purchased a keyboard cleaner, I could finally go on to fight the mech bosses. And I decided to do this in a little 2-hour window that I have between classes on Fridays. Little did I know that I would absolutely tear through these things. I started off with like a simple little twins fight, and I cannot believe that 10-year-old me was dumb enough to have to look up a guide on how to beat this boss. I played classic mode on 2015 in my iPad, and I was not dexterous enough to pull this off. I did not fall below half health once during this entire fight with my feet, and I lived happily ever after. I was like kind of expecting something similar to Queen Slime because she's like technically before them in progression, but I was dead wrong. I melted the twins into scrap metal and used their body parts to make smaller versions of them, which now that I actually think of it is maybe a little weird, but that's not my problem. It's theirs for thinking they could throw down with me. Now it was time for me to go and farm so that I could make summons for the other two mechs, and these two fell a bit more in line with my expectations, and by that I mean that my dumb ass thought it would be so silly if I decided to use the blade staff again against both of these bosses, even though I just trapped the souls of the twins in their tiny bodies. So my DPS was pretty low, and I just couldn't handle the smoke from the projectiles that either of these two bosses were throwing out. Fast forward a couple nights, and I decided to try them yet again, but with the twins this time. And for both of these bosses, I unfortunately made one fatal mistake in each of them. Exhibit A, Skeletron Prime. Now this fight was a huge learning experience for me, because this is when I discovered that in this foot world, raw dodging prowess was my only way forward. During this specific attempt, I decided to try and use the whip that I had crafted out of hollowed bars, so that my summons would like try to target the head and the head only. But since my summons need to be like somewhat close to what they're fighting, I just focused way too hard on trying to passionately make out with Skeletron's head, and I ended up getting sniped by a laser. Exhibit B, the Destroyer. In this fight, my fatal mistake was flying too close to the sun, much like Icarus or the detached door of a Boeing 737. Because of this mistake, I was punished by a sky snake that threaded its head through my chest as though I was a needle. Because of these two huge learning experiences, I was finally ready to handle these two mech bosses on my next attempts. So, once I had finally went and farmed all of the materials to summon them again, I started with the Skeletron Prime fight. As you can see, I literally just took my foot off of the mouse and put all of my toes into gear on dodging attacks. Sure, the fight probably took longer than it would have, but as the number of projectiles decreases, I become a happier boy. Also, I was left with this beautiful sight of Skeletron's dumb little head barreling towards me while I stood there as still as stone, and the angry Wojak Skeletron just folded in sheer awe of the Chad Wojak Toe Biden. Next up, I skipped right to the next night and fought the Destroyer. Now, you would think that after having dialed in on my previous mistake and examining why I had lost, I would try to like maybe fly lower in the sky. Now, if you thought that, you would be wrong, and this is why you do not have a growth mindset. Any ordinary Terraria player would be afraid of the sky snake threat and would live in fear of the clouds. But because I am a Sigma male, I decided that I must just fly higher and conquer the skies. So, I went into the domain of the majestic wyvern and challenged it to mortal combat once again in order to prove that I had grown as a fighter. The beast came forward to my challenge, and I turned a whip upon it and forced it into submission. Due to my sheer prowess as a fighter, the Destroyer handed me the victory directly and gladly died at my feet. In reality, having the wyvern spawn was a complete accident, and I almost pissed myself when I saw that it had spawned again. Luckily, this fight was pretty straightforward, and I barely managed to squeak out a victory after my dumbass blunder. Now, this is when you would think that the blessed Run Saga would finally come to an end. However, that is right where you would be wrong. This is because I decided, you know, I might as well look at my watch, and I saw that I still had 10 minutes left before I had to leave to go to my engineering lecture. So, I went and did what any sane person would do, and I was like, yeah, I could probably beat Plantera right now. Little did I know that I was being guided along a path of success and glory. My running theory right now is that when, forever ago, I killed that blood eel, I freed the tormented soul of Garrett, the guide, and that this was his way of showing me gratitude. So, I sprinted to the jungle to try and find a Plantera bulb. Crazily enough, there was one directly above my Queen Bee arena, and all I had to do was dig a quick little hole so that I could fall all the way down. Now, for many, this arena would be way too small for this boss. It's super vertical, there's no horizontal space, you can't really do much. However, since I beat Queen Slime, I now believe that my toe skills are on par with about the average 12-year-old's ability to play this game with their hands. So, I was more than ready to take on Classic Mode Plantera. This fight is quite literally just flying in half circles repeatedly and taking like a little bit of caution not to run into Plantera's giant balls. So, of course, I breezed through the first phase. But now we are at probably the most crucial moment in the entire fight. I was trying to get off a quick little heal, and as you can see, my health was really low. So I did what any normal player would do, and I tried to use the quick heal button. Huge mistake. Upon attempting to return my foot to the spacebar, I accidentally clicked the M button, which opened my map. I panicked so hard. I was trying to close my map back up, and eventually I managed to do it. If you remember the Brain of Cthulhu fight, I did this same thing, and it resulted in me dying. So I was terrified. The boss was so close to being dead, but so was I. As you can see, my toe is shaking like I have Parkinson's disease, and I am absolutely terrified. But little do you know that I am also locked in, okay? As I get closer and closer to winning, I also get closer and closer to dying. It's terrible. Until, boom, I won. And now you can see the gamer expressing excitement in his natural habitat. Now, can we get an idea of what he sounds like? Yeah, no, that's actually about what I expected. So, after this massive victory, I quickly pop up to buy the tiki armor from the witch doctor, and I pop my shoes on and rush off to class. I made it with like a minute left. Almost immediately after I got home from class, I just hop on and start building my Golem arena. I was starting to feel so excited. And you know what? Golem's such an easy boss that I cannot believe that people ever die to it. I bet I could even beat it first try with my feet. I can't believe just to the Golem. Oh, yeah, that's not good. Well, chat, it might be over for my credibility as a gamer. I'm officially washed and I suck at games. Luckily, after my respawn timer was over, a solar eclipse spawned immediately. So I had a fun event to take the edge off. I also had the opportunity to get myself a Deadly Sphere Staff, which is like one of the best summons at this point in the game. Luckily, my prayers were answered and I got not only the Deadly Sphere Staff, but I killed enough Mothrons to get the Mothron wings, which are like one of the best pairs of wings in the game. It was at this moment that it dawned on me that I am not actually all that far off from the end of the game, and this challenge began to feel really doable. On top of all of that, I was rewarded for my patience by barely squeaking out a victory against the Golem with my new Deadly Sphere Staff. Pretty much everything was going right for me, and I was starting to get excited. Luckily, the Pumpkin Moon is always there to make me feel like shit again. I started farming the Pumpkin Moon because the Morning Woods can drop something called a Necromantic Scroll, which gives me yet another summon slot. That would be really good for me, right? Now, what if I told you that I just didn't get one? Yeah, I know, that would be really frustrating, wouldn't it? God, I hate my life. Now I decided that I needed to take up gardening in order to heal my broken soul. It's meant to be like super therapeutic is what I've heard, and honestly it kind of was. Gardening in this case meant purging my world of its evil biome. And now the flesh caverns were just normal caverns again, and my NPCs could live in peace and harmony forever and ever. However, I was just about to instantly disrupt their happiness once again because I'm just a menace or something. I ran out to the outer third of the world and showed the Martians a picture of my feet, and they sent their whole army, of course, because they just wanted every single picture of my feet for themselves. However, I was not willing to let them have them, so I killed their entire army all by myself and also stole some of their baby spaceships for my own purposes. You know, does the existence of these baby spaceships also imply the existence of a spaceship Uzi? I sure hope so. Now that I finally had an army of baby spaceships to fight for me, it was time to go and catch a truffle worm. I did not consider just how much playing with my feet would complicate this process, since they're like already famously tricky to catch. Remembering to have my big toe on the mouse to swing before the worms would slither away like the slimy little snakes that they are was like a real struggle for me. It, no joke, took me like 10 minutes to catch a single worm, which I am still embarrassed about to this day. However, with this worm, it was time for me to go and fight the Duke Fishmonger, the final boss of fishmongering. Little did I know that this fight was going to be incredibly painful without a dash item. So I tried it once and immediately caved and went to farm for a necromantic scroll again, and also a tabby. Unfortunately, this video game is terrible and my pumpkin moon did not give me my delicious scroll, and 25 minutes in the dungeon also did not give me a tabby. So I decided to re-enter the thugging it out mentality for my queen slime fights. A true thug eventually experiences what is known as the divine come-up. in which I was rewarded for my thugging by making some actual progress. I realized that I literally just had to fly in like a zigzag pattern, and eventually I would just survive the second phase and beyond. So I made my dock cover the entire ocean and went to farm more worms. The next morning, it was finally time for my thugging out to come to true fruition. It was after running the boss for about 2 hours and some words of encouragement from Cataclysmic Armageddon and his daughter that I was finally able to learn the patterns well enough to beat this boss. And not only did I beat the Fishmonger, but I also farmed his dumbass. Eventually, I even came across the Tsunami Staff, whose DPS makes my baby spaceships look even babier. So now, I decided that it was time for me to go and fight the lunatic cultist for a while. I say for a while because I think this boss took as many attempts as the Queen Slime did. I was just running down attempts on this boss, but I was thinly veiling my rage because there was another person on the call with me at the time. It wasn't until Kata mentioned it that I realized what the actual issue was. I was fighting the lunatic cultist on call with the man who no-hits bosses as the lunatic cultist.
Cultist, kill, destroy, eliminate Footman.
It was Kata's fault and his fault entirely. So, after he gave me an audio clip of him saying like and subscribe for completely free,
You can put that in your thing and just have me saying, like and subscribe to this video.
yeah,
Let's see if the buttons go up.
endorsed by Cataclysmic Armageddon, I tactically decided to take a lunch break so that I could fight the lunatic cultist free from his influence. It was also Kata who taught me the cultist's greatest weakness. You see, the lunatic cultist does this fun little animation where it tries to trick you into attacking one of its clones. The big problem is that if I attack one of the clones on accident, an evil dragon will swallow me whole. But Kata let me in on a very valuable trade secret. The real cultist doesn't glow in the dark, but the clones do. Now, my summons were obviously too dumb to figure this out on their own, but you know, that's expected if they're also dumb enough to listen to my dumbass. So, because I was wise enough to dig a blood rainbow out of my storage, all I had to do was fight the boss at night and simply click on the correct cultist, and the evil dragon would remain in hell where it belongs. So, now that I was equipped to defeat the cultist, I finally was able to rip it to shreds. The cultist dropped its mask for me as well, so I decided to favorite it and keep it in my inventory as a symbol that Kata would now be on my side and not against me. And now it was finally time for me to do the lunar events. So obviously I went and started with the pillar meant for summoners so that I could get the best summon weapon in the game, the Stardust Dragon Staff. I definitely cheesed this pillar by saving star cells on the outside of the boundary, but I'm playing with my feet, goddammit, just let me be happy, people. Now that I had my scary dragon and I could breeze through the rest of the pillars, I killed off the 2 harder pillars and then went off to build a massive bridge across the sky so that I could run from the final boss of this feat run, the Moon Lord. This platform was about 1,000 blocks long and should totally be enough for the Moon Lord. Now that I felt like I had made adequate preparation, this fight should be easy, right? Absolutely cooked. Oh, damn, this might take a while. I don't know why I thought this was gonna be one of the bosses that I could kill on my first try. Hell, I was even too lazy to get life fruit and upgrade my health. I definitely deserve to lose here. So, shamefully, I decided to go and kill the cultist and do the lunar events all over again. At least this time, the cultist was easier because I had the Stardust Dragon, but it was not fun having to do this again. This time, I also took the initiative to get some hollowed bars from the twins and fight another Pumpkin Moon so that I could finally get myself a Necromantic Scroll. Actually, I got 2, so I guess that's cool, but I was boiling on the inside because of this. What I didn't show for the sake of timeliness is that I have literally fought 5 Pumpkin Moons hoping to get just one of these, and in the 5th one, the trees are gracious and are just like, yeah, here are 2 scrolls for your troubles. Now, you can go kill the octopus man, and I can't help but be a little mad because it's just ridiculous, okay? It's just stupid. But I guess the trees are right, it is time to go kill the octopus man, or at least that's what I thought. During my second attempt, YouTuber Charzium had the wisdom to point this out.
Do you not have any life fruit?
I realized that maybe, possibly, my lack of health could be an issue, but I was also too much of a beast to care, until I ended up dying, and then I summoned it again, and I died again. Wait, maybe if I summon him again, I'll be fine. Nope, yeah, okay. It had gotten so bad that I had to do another set of lunar events, so maybe it would probably be best if I went and got life fruit. As a final attempt to save my sanity, I went and gathered 11 life fruits and figured that that would probably be enough, and I got started on the lunar events again. And as I fought my way tooth and toenail through the lunar events once again, I finally got the natural Moonlord summon again. During this specific fight, I realized something incredibly important. Okay guys, watch this. Alright, you see that? I took like 200 damage just as I turned around on the platform. Now, I happen to be going to school for engineering, so I know a problem when I see one. And surely enough, a problem was there. Now watch this. I got the forehead eye out for the first time ever. Coincidence? Probably, but I like to think not. Now, what if there was a way for me to take much less damage when turning around? I don't know, let's say that I can't get hit rapidly. Bingo. This right here was my greatest revelation. The universe spoke to me and I decided to listen. Sure, I had to do the lunar events one more time, but this time I had inspiration, divine inspiration. I was going to use my star veil to increase my iframes. Well, at least I was going to, but completely forgot to use it when I got the auto summon from the pillars. But this run doesn't matter. We forget about that. That's a fake run. It's not real, okay? I still had 3 whole celestial sigils and a dream. So I went and put on my star veil and went to face the final boss of this run. As you can see, I was completely locked in. I thought back to the friends that I had lost along the way, like Garrett, who was a true friend of mine. We were really good friends, I swear. Or my imp platoon that fought tirelessly for me. They never gave up, all right? And I couldn't give up. All of them were inside of me at this moment, like really, really deep inside of me. Now watch this right here. Death Ray dodged because I was still in my iframes. And after the eyeball pops out, I managed to use iframes once again to dodge death. Could this be the run? Finally, the Moon Lord decided to open his heart to me, baby. But things were starting to look pretty dire in my health department. My life was below 100, but my dragon was firmly latched onto the Moon Lord's fast-beating heart. Now we're at the very end, and wait, that projectile right there, it's about to hit me. Nope! That stupid projectile literally sold the entire fight and exploded a millisecond before hitting me. If it had just a little bit more gas, I would have probably died both in the video game and in real life from an aneurysm, and the Moon Lord would have actually won against me. But instead, I beat Terraria using only my feet. However, there is still a bit of unfinished business left for me to do. This keyboard has been subjected to athlete's foot and the rot for the last 28 hours, and I think it's earned a well-deserved cleaning. So that's what's happening right now. So when I originally wrote this script, I had not actually cleaned the keyboard yet, and to my surprise, this took me 45 minutes. Nobody told me that my keyboard would be this horrendously disgusting. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. This video was a labor of love and whatever, but you know, that's not important. What's important is that you all like and subscribe. No, but in all seriousness, something about this run was really special to me. It had been an idea that I had floating around since like last August or so, and that's why the messages with Colt were like that old. I never expected this to take this long, but you know, freshman year of college and my graveyard factory job last summer hit pretty hard. So if you were wondering why this video came out 14 months after the last one, there's your reason. But since then, I've gotten so much more in touch with the Terraria content creation scene, and I've met so many cool people like the ones with cameos in this video, and I've also been featured in a couple videos on some other people's channels. And I'm just immensely grateful for all of the opportunities I've had so far in this community, and I'm just really looking forward, hopefully, to the future. So thank you so much for your continued support on the streams, and make sure to keep tuning in because things are about to get epic in that department. But I'll stop talking your ears off for now, and this keyboard is starting to look pretty clean now, so all I want to say is thanks for watching and have a great day or night, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.